This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
Mic check. Check mic. This is Sportish. Welcome in, everybody, on For the Fans. I'm Geoff Brault. He's Dr. Keith Strudler, Director of School of Communication and Media, Montclair State University. And here's something that I got to get off my chest. We lost our producer, Mike Wallace, a few weeks ago. And I don't mean by lost that he passed on. I mean that...
Still with us, yeah.
You know, we either fired him or he quit, depending on who you talk to first. And ever since that time, Keith Strudler has taken it upon himself to finally do some work for this program. And he has been filling the Mike Wallace role in producing our broadcast. And ever since that time, all I hear is that our audio is bad and it's because of me. And I say, but you're the one controlling it all. You have all the power of everything. I can't monitor my audio live because I hear myself in my own ears. I hear myself in the headset. I don't know what my microphone sounds like. I can go by the little bar that I have on my screen, but that's all I can do. So you're like, your mic's too low. And then the next week, you're like, your mic's too hot. And I'm like, how come you never look inward? How come you never look inward and say, well, maybe I should turn mine up or turn mine down, or maybe I should normalize this and post it anyway? How come I got to keep hearing about this?
You can't normalize
hearing about this.
You don't even know how audio works. The fact I can't normalize this because it's recorded on a single track, and I don't have that AI technology yet built into my computer that can isolate our voices. So I don't have a 2-track solution right now, just like you don't have a 2-mic solution right now. I have what I have. So I'm doing the best I can. What's that you say? What's this behind me?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all. I don't care what that is.
What is this? I'm sorry. What do you say? Oh, this is the award I won over the weekend for being first place in the male 50 to 54 range. And by the way, would have won many age groups. That just happens to be the age group I'm in at the West Point Triathlon. So I'll say a few things about that. First, Jeff, do you know what this is?
I do. It's a giant shell casing.
For what?
I'm going to guess a tank or some other kind of major
I don't
artillery.
know. I actually don't know. I'm asking. This is not a rhetorical question. I'm asking. It's a giant. They said it's a giant shell, but it doesn't fit in a gun. Like, it's too big because that would be a huge bullet. So I'm assuming it's for like a cannon or a tank or one of these things.
A cannon? What do you think our army is? Do you think our army is fighting in 1824? A cannon?
Where did this go? This should go right over here. It's so heavy too. It's so heavy. This
actually brings up an actual sports question, because we may do something approaching a sports. Look, it's the middle of August and nothing is going on. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL. We're going to talk a little bit about college football. But for the most part, sports aren't happening right now. They're just not.
I did a triathlon.
But here's an actual sports question for you, right? So you won the 50 to 54 age group?
Sure.
But you said your time would have beaten younger people, right?
Sure, of course, yeah.
How come you don't also then win those age groups?
Because I'm not.
I feel like when it comes... Well, no, I feel like when it comes to athletics and age, right? If you're in an older group and you beat a younger group, theoretically, after a certain point, obviously you beat the 12-year-olds, that's a little different. But if you're in the 50 to 54 and you beat the 40 to 44, I feel like you should be that champion.
But why? But that doesn't work that way. You're competing in a group of people. There's no logic to that. I understand your logic. Your logic is that's just, there is a way to do that. That's just, there's an overall, if you compete just for the overall top 3, that's everyone together. But you're making some assumptions. Now, yes, I think the assumption is largely, well, let's take another example. Are 30 to 34 faster than 35 to 39?
I think by and large, they should be. And in the instance, if they're not, they shouldn't win. This is my problem with a lot of these races and triathlons that you do. There's too many winners. How many people won a giant shell casing last weekend? Seriously, how many people left with a trophy?
Well, the true story, there's one from each age group, right? Now, the problem, so I actually was going to take off. I had this is how I know I'm getting older. This is my first triathlon in a couple of years. I was, a little rusty and et cetera. But I wanted, I figured it would be nice to get out there and do something. And I actually hurt myself warming up. So I went to jog a mile before the race, and halfway through my calf tied up, and I had to, like, I almost had to go home. So then I did the race with a severely injured calf, and it hurt the entire time. I'm still having a hard time walking, which you can't tell from the show. So I actually was going to take off after the race. I did pretty well considering, you know, all that kind of stuff. I believe I was something like 6th overall. And then there's a humble brag, by the way. So then I walked by where the award ceremony was, and I saw that some of the award, like I saw glasses, not like sunglasses, but like glasses that said West Point. I'm kind of a sucker, and I think you are probably as well, for like glasses, like branded glasses. That's a thing for me. Like having
not so much. I mean, I like winning anything. So I mean, if it's whatever the form the trophy comes in,
would you like a glass that has this on it? Like
I stick around for one of these.
Right. So I like those. And I saw that and I was like, oh, I'm just kidding. It was only another 15 minutes. I was like, I'll stick around. And West Point's very close. It's like 35 minutes for me. So I was like, I'll stick around for that. Well, turns out that went to the second and third place winners or as you probably call it, the second and third place losers in each age group. Yeah. Each group. The winners got this thing, which I then had to figure out what it was. And so the one last question on this, and I know we have to move on.
First of all, that's where you're wrong. We do not have to move on. I cannot impress upon you or the viewers / listeners, depending on how you're consuming, especially for the fans, FTF Next, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. There ain't a lot coming behind this. Again, we got a little bit to talk about the NFL. We're going to talk a little bit about college football. But for the most part, take your time.
Do cannons still operate with a cannonball? Like to the extent, like
do you think that wars are like pirate movies? Like, well, I was thinking we still have old wooden ships.
I was kind of thinking of it more like Bugs Bunny. I mean, our Looney Tunes, where they are, you know, Wile E. Coyote. Because I would see the cannonball, right? And now the cannonball, I just assumed was like a bowling ball that they would shoot out. Because that's how it worked when Wile E. Coyote got his face in the cannon. It was like a giant, but that has to be filled with explosives, I have to imagine.
So the explosives create the pressure that propels the ball out of the thing, and then that rips through whatever you shoot it at.
So that's just a bowling ball. That's all that is.
Yeah. Huh. I mean, theoretically, that's all a bullet is. It's just propelled at a very high rate of speed.
Well, I don't want to get hit by either, but I'll tell you what, if it came down to it, would you rather get hit with a bullet or a high-speed bowling ball?
I don't think it matters. I don't think it really makes a difference. Here's what we need to get. And you're tied into the racing world at a reasonably high level. I mean, still a man of your age group is still, you said you finished 6th overall.
Sure. I should have done better. I could have finished a little higher. My transitions were very poor.
Yeah. So that's super impressive to someone like me who has no idea if that's actually good or bad. So color me impressed. Now, that said, I think that there needs to be less trophies and there needs to be less winners. Right? It'll legitimize this sport a little bit. Stop with this age group hogwash. Or if you're going to continue to do the age groups, do it and hand out a ribbon or a certificate or something that says, hey, congratulations, you ran a good race, but you were, 55th. Oh, but by the way, you were the fastest 80-year-old, so that's pretty cool. Don't treat that person as well as you treat the overall winner. Don't do that. There's no reason for that. There's no reason to give out top 3 per age group. What are we doing? Why are we doing that? If you, as a man in a more advanced age group, beat someone younger, they shouldn't also get a trophy. You shouldn't be proud if you're 38 years old and you lost to a 50-year-old in Keystra. There's no pride in that. That guy's got the same trophy as you, an age group champion, but you, an older person, beat him. In athletics, the younger person is almost always better, unless the ages are pretty similar. But if there's a huge gap, like 32 to 50, and the 50-year-old wins, that 32-year-old isn't a champion. Why are you giving that person a trophy? They didn't win crap. They should give you that trophy as well.
So I should be able to just scale down to the young until I can't beat someone and just grab 100%. All their gear.
100%. Right? Do you not think it's more impressive if you beat someone who, let's say, is a year out of college at a triathlon? Like, wouldn't you think like, hey, that's impressive that I'm still able to do that?
That may be the single stupidest take you've
no way. You like this idea that the champion of every 4 years gets a trophy and it's the same trophy whether you beat them?
What I do think is there's probably it probably would behooves all of these races to find a way to motivate people to sign up and do them. And if you promise everyone over the age of like 30 that they're going to be branded as the first loser, it's probably not. If you're going to tell every 50 or 60-year-old, by the way, a 60-year-old finishing a triathlon, that's quite a feat, right? They've gone through some life experiences. Mm-hmm. And to walk them across the line and be like, hey, loser, here's your ribbon, but you are jack slow. You are.
Yes. Welcome to sports. Welcome to sports. But I'm less about that because I agree with how impressive it is that an older person wins. But if an older person beats a younger person, it should slap the trophy right out of their hand. It should. If you're 33 and you lose to someone who's in their 50s, you shouldn't get a trophy. You shouldn't. Now, look, there's an argument to be made that if the inverse is true, right? If you're in your 50s and someone who's in their 30s beats you, they shouldn't get your trophy. I'm not saying younger people should get to age up. No. But if an older person beats a younger person, you can't call that person a champion because there's no advantages in the sport of triathlon, I'm guessing, to being older. Is there any advantage to being older in your sport?
You have more money.
And don't feed me the crap about I've got knowledge. I'm wily. I don't want to hear that. Is there any advantage to being older in the sport of triathlon?
You might be richer and you can afford a better bike. That's not nothing. That's not nothing. You can buy this. Let me put it. I went out to that race in a brand new 200 pair of carbon racing shoes. Like these things felt like trampolines. I finally wore, like those shoes that everyone's been complaining about because they should be illegal because they make you faster. They do feel nice. It almost compensated for the fact that I nearly tore my calf in half during the warm-up.
So you don't agree with me. You think that the 30-year-olds should still get their trophy and that their win should count as much as yours?
Generally speaking, if there's enough people that are there will be, a 30-year-old, there'll be a more competitive. There happen to have not been in certain age groups, particular. So no, but now in the younger, there were some cadets. By the way, I'll tell you something about cadets. How polite are they? Polite are they?
Yes. Very polite. I've had a chance to, work with some Army West Point athletes being close to where I live in the Mid-Hudson Valley. And they're terrific to deal with.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Some would say the finest of our young people.
Yeah, you can make that argument. So that's all I have to say. But I did want to point out, because I know the viewers were confused about the giant shrapnel I had in the set. And so, but I just wanted to acknowledge that's because I've been recognized for my athletic feats. That's why it's there.
You often take time on this show to complain about things that are going on in your life. And I never do because I respect our viewers, but I'd like to, because it's the middle of August and nothing is going on. Again, we'll get to Tim Tebow and we'll get to the Washington football team and we'll get to Lane Kiffin and we'll get to the NIL news. It's coming. All right. If you're here for that, sit tight. It's coming. But look, I'm moving right now. I'm in the process of moving. Is there a worse process, Keith Strudler? Because I know you've done it. You've done it relatively recently. It might be the worst thing in the world, right? I have to imagine it's like deployment, moving, right? Like that's
deployment.
It's awful.
Deployment brings moving and another layer.
Exactly. That's why I rank it higher.
So, because you have all of the negative of moving, but then you have the added detriment of I might be killed. So you don't have that on the back end of this. Like at least when you move, often you have the new adventure and the positive on the back end. It's like, hey, you're moving. Welcome to Iraq. Like it's not as pleasant. And so
I don't discount that there are benefits on the front end and there are benefits on the back end. But when you're in the middle, it's a terrible process. And part of the reason it's so terrible, and this leads me to my next genius idea, as we often have genius business ideas on this program, like our restaurant concept, Lost in the Sauce, or Everything in a Helmet. These are ideas that you can take to the bank, or some of the reality TV shows that we've pitched on this show. I told you what I shared because, as you know, and we will deal with this, I believe, in the next episode, because we do, of course, have an expert, a good friend of the program at the University of Alabama, the Ronald Reagan chair of broadcasting, as well as the executive director of the sports communication program at the University of Alabama, our good friend, Dr. Andy Billings. We'll have him on, of course, to talk about Bama Rush, which has taken over the reality TikTok ecosphere. Yes. I shared with you some of my ideas of things that I'd like to see turned into a reality show. And my number one right now is to follow around doctors who perform vasectomies. I would watch an entire reality series about the vasectomy, because you got people walking in there who have to be on literally on a knife.
on a knife's edge who have to be pretty nervous. And so just hearing hearing the prep conversation when the doctor is talking through what's going to happen when they get into the chair, or shall we say stirrups, like when they have to kind of get in there. I would watch the hell out of that show, right?
So while you were doing that, watching Bama sorority girls on TikTok and planning for your vasectomy reality show, I've been moving. And what's so awful about the process, and what I can't believe doesn't exist, and what I think we or someone who's listening should start and then give us royalties for, there should be a one-stop shop for this. There should be a one phone call where you bundle a realtor, a house cleaning, an inspection, a lawyer, a moving company. There should be someone who offers every service. The fact that I'm making 9 billion phone calls and writing thousands of dollars of checks to all these different people, it blows my mind. It's so much time and effort. It's driving me insane.
Well, important question. Did you get moving expenses included in your new opportunity?
Listen, we got a fine package. It's not the cost that I'm upset about.
I'm just wondering
because I truly care about.
No. Some people go. So this is what happens. Some people go real cheap on the move because they're like, look, I'm going to get a U-Haul, but not even a real U-Haul. I got a guy down the street who's put this thing together.
No, we're not doing that. I actually made a promise to myself a number of years ago that I would never lift my couch again. And I intend to keep that promise to myself. Now, what I'm upset about is the time. The time is, and that is truly the most valuable commodity. You can't get it back. You can make more money. You can't get your time back. And I've got a lot of time invested in this that I feel like I don't need to. I should be able to make one phone call and have this thing covered soup to nuts.
It's not a horrible idea. Have you sold your current living place?
Not yet. It's in the process though right now. Right now there's some showings on the books. It's out there publicly. So just think, someone out there, if you're in the market to live in the Mid-Hudson Valley, you could unknowingly purchase the room in which Sportish was founded. And I'm thinking about, before leaving, putting a plaque up just so that they know what happened in the spare bedroom of
make sure it can't be removed. You have to get to the Historical Society. Honey, we're not allowed to take this down? Not allowed to take the plaque down? Have it put up there like it's George Washington, like Sportish founded here. A gold plaque right on the front,
What if I leave the shelves behind me, but put them in like museum lucite so that they have to have them forever, like it's preserving an artifact?
So you're telling me by next month, we're going to have a whole new set for this show.
It's very possible. I'm already thinking about what the new set is going to be.
I hope that was something you considered as you were looking for where you're living. I hope you
took that into consideration. That way. The new situation will not have a dedicated room for Sportish. So I am going to have to figure out what to do and how to do it. I've got some ideas percolating. There's a chance, because I've got this beautiful picture window that overlooks the city that I'm moving to, that I might try to figure out how to light the set so that the background is just the outdoors. Like the outdoor background is pretty cool. It kind of looks like when somebody, was like via satellite from Los Angeles and they put up the thing in the background. It kind of looks like that, but real, but not green screen. So that's a possibility if we can make the technology work. But if you have been listening to the first 18 minutes of this show, you know that making the technology work is not what we do here on Sportish. So I don't have high hopes, and neither should you at home.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the lighting situation. So interesting. All right. So look, yes, moving is horrible. I will say, don't complain too much. You have had to move for yourself. Do you know what moving a family is like?
Oh, I'm sure it's terrible, but I've purposely set my life up to never have to do that. So I don't feel any sympathy for people that
here's the thing that happens during moving. And it's something that we all do and we all later regret, because you're going to have one of the joys of moving is the purging process. You're like, oh, I think it's time. I think it's time to get rid of that paper mache Dan Marino head, right? You start thinking,
yeah.
But what the problem is, because you basically have to go and you got your buckets, throw away, give away, keep. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem is I don't care what you do. You're going to be bringing things to this new situation that should never have made the cut. There will be things that move into this new establishment that 5 years from now, when you move again, or how will have been unopened.
A great point that you bring up, because last weekend I spent purging that stuff. All of the stuff that was literally still in the box from the last move, where I'm like, well, I have to have this. And I was like, where is the nearest donation bin? Why am I still carrying this? So yes, you're exactly right. Most of that stuff is probably on this shelf behind me. But yes, I agree with you. I think you're right. That's going to happen. You also realize how much junk you accumulate over the course of your life. And you wonder, how did I come in possession of these things? And I can't wait until I move one day and somebody's like, what's this? And they're like, oh yeah, we had a TV show for a while. Why do you still have this mug? And I go, well, sentimental value. I think that'll be most pronounced with the Mr. Peanut mug and the Mr. Peanut bobblehead from, of course, Jay Friedman's failed Sportish Secret Santa from the last holiday season. You know, I'm going to have that stuff for years. I have to explain to someone one day why I have a Mr. Peanut mug. And I'm like, well, let me tell you about Jay Friedman.
Well, I will tell you, this is a big moment. And then I would like to move on with the show. This is a big moment, not only for you, but it's also a big moment for Jay Friedman. Things, when people move, weird things happen. Like if there's ever been a time that Jay Friedman might get a phone call and say, you're on this week. Oh, and I'll tell you what, you're coming right into the beginning of, I think it's probably sweeps month. Like you're coming right into when people are coming back from vacation. Boy, if there's ever been an opportunity, and wouldn't it be ironic if some hotshot producer happens to flip to us the 1 week you're gone and he sees the two of me and Jay and he goes, those two guys are dynamic. I got to get them on. Like, think about that.
I'll be okay. I like to live on the edge.
It could happen.
So yeah, there's really, and this is why we're just airing grievances here on this edition of Sportish. You can listen to older sports shows wherever you get your podcast. You can watch them at ftfnext.com or on YouTube. Those are options for you. You don't have to be locked in on this show. You can watch last week's episode.
Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
I'm just letting them know that there is good broadcasting out there.
Do you self-sabotage? Do you self-sabotage everything you do? Do you go, like when you go on a date, are you like, look, there are a lot of guys in this town. So if you, I mean, do you do that?
This is the difference between you and me. You go on a bad date, right? And instead of calling it what it is, instead of saying, hey, look, you and I both know that this is not working out. We've both been on good dates before. We have proof of that. We know it. You believe every date has to be the best date you've ever been on. You could not fathom the fact that someone out there doesn't like you. You can't fathom the fact that we might not have that much to talk about this episode, so therefore it may not be our best.
We do.
I respect the other party enough to let them know, look, yeah, sure. As mentioned, we are going to get to some sports topics. Wouldn't it be great if I was just lying to people and we never actually got to them and this is what we did until we ran out the clock? But I'm not. We are actually going to talk about some things that are going on in the NFL and in college football, as mentioned. But
how long are you going to tease that? How long are you going to tease that?
Until we've successfully whittled
down
the time.
Who shot JR got settled quicker than this?
To fit it all in. But why can't you be honest with the people at home and let them know that if they want to watch last week's episode, they're probably going to be more fulfilled than if they were watching this.
They've already watched last week's episode.
Now, judging by our streaming numbers, no, they have not.
That's why they're here. Can we talk about Tim Tebow?
Sure. He doesn't play in the NFL anymore. He's no different than you or me. He lasted one game, Keith Strudler, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He made one play that went viral on the internet, which, by the way, wasn't that terrible. Like, yes, it didn't look good, but his man didn't blow up the play, which is all you really need to do in blocking. And then everybody goes, this is terrible. He's not good at this, playing a position he's literally never played in his entire life before. And the Jaguars were like, that's it for the Tim Tebow experiment. So long, thanks for playing, which I have no problem with. I had no problem with him signing. I had no problem with giving him a shot. I have no problem with the Jaguars cutting him, which I know makes for very interesting debate in a show like ours.
Well, since I happen to have written a commentary about it today, I have a little bit more sophisticated take than your just highly pedestrian stating the obvious. That was borderline a newsread. And so,
first of all, I will have you know that I would respect so many more sports shows if they said what I just said. I think it's fine. I don't care that much. Sure. It is what it is. That's most of this crap. Instead, we got to spend hours fighting about it.
Well, I will say this. So here's what I'll say. One, he obviously did not take anyone's spot because when he got cut, they still have 85 guys left. Like he didn't. So whoever was going to be in his spot also wasn't making the team. Like that. This is like he denied someone an opportunity. I'm like, an opportunity to spend 2 weeks in training camp. He did deny someone that opportunity. Otherwise, he didn't do anything. Whoever was in that spot, like you get down to a 53-man roster, that thing's like 90%, 95% settled before anyone shows up. I mean, I would argue you're worried about the edges at that point when you're kind of fighting for roster spots. It's not like I love coaches like to be like, every spot's an open spot. We're all fine. Like, I don't think Tom Brady's fighting for a spot right now. I think Tom Brady
make the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor, you're a rookie just like the rest of them. You got to earn your play here. Like, exactly. There are people there that are absolutely going to be playing for that team. And I would suggest, as awful as the Jaguars are, there were still 45 guys that were already penciled in right now at this point. That's just the way it works. All right. So that's A. I think the more interesting conversation is, why do people care so much about Tim Tebow? Because there are right now thousands of players trying out for NFL teams right now. And a lot of them who, by the way, were pretty good college athletes who still are not going to make a team, right? And maybe they'll end up at the CFL. Maybe they'll never play it down again, right? This happens every year. Literally, this is not like the NBA where, like the NBA, it's always fascinating when the commissioner's like, you're joining an elite fraternity. There's only been X thousands of people who've ever played in the NBA. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, the NBA is a tiny group of people who have ever actually played. It's making an NBA team is really impressive because there's so few people who have ever done it. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have cycled through the NFL because they don't last that long. There's huge rosters, and the NFL has been around for a heck of a long time, right? So why is it that we care? And I think that's the more interesting question. And what I've kind of come, and I don't think this is a novel kind of take, but when we see Tim Tebow, we see a whole lot of other things. So we've ascribed value to Tim Tebow. So when you're looking at Tim Tebow, I know there's a few people who are like, he shouldn't be, he's not a good enough football player. Yeah. So for the 5 Jacksonville Jaguar fans out there, like the 5 that exist, I understand they might look at it and be like, I don't want Tim Tebow to be my quarterback. But everyone else is looking at Tim Tebow, and if they want him to get the opportunity or not get the opportunity, or want him to make the team or not make the team, it's almost like they are making value judgments about what they perceive to be important in the universe. So people that seem to love Tim Tebow and like, he should be on the team, he deserves a shot, he never got a fair shake. These are people that ascribe to the notion that you can do anything if you work really hard. And, you know, there's nothing but possibilities and everyone gets a fair shake. And it's really important. I mean, in some cases to give yourself to a higher power, right? That God is Jesus is my co-pilot, right? Like people that are cheering for Tim Tebow in some ways are cheering for this kind of this authenticity of hard work, dedication, and you can accomplish anything. The values that Tim Tebow, the brand Tim Tebow has come to become. People that hate Tim Tebow are in many cases are people that look at Tim Tebow very differently, that say, we are so tired of this world where people with power and privilege get extra opportunities. So Tim Tebow is only getting a shot because he's got friends in Urban Meyer, and everyone, like, they treat him differently because he's Tim Tebow and he embodies some kind of cultural norm, right? That he's the embodiment of you know, almost like a mythical figure. And because of that, he gets opportunities that if it were someone that weren't Tim Tebow would never have gotten that opportunity. So people that believe in a true meritocracy, they look at Tim Tebow and they say he defies everything that's wrong with America, right? And people that are cheering for Tim Tebow are like, he's everything that's right with America. Even the way that people, like, there are half of the people in America who think Tim Tebow is the most selfless, modest human being to ever, right? He is literally like Jesus. He gives, he just gives. And then there are other people, I happen to be a little bit in this camp, who look at Tim Tebow and says, I don't know I've ever seen someone who loves himself more than Tim Tebow loves Tim Tebow. Now, I actually do believe that Tim Tebow does believe in a lot of these things he purports to believe in. I really do. I've talked to enough people that were associated with Florida that are like, nah, he's kind of the real Tim, like the real deal. Like, he cares deeply about charity work. He cares deeply about community, et cetera, et cetera. I also think he cares deeply about Tim. Otherwise, he wouldn't do so many photo shoots with his shirt off. Like, no one who doesn't love himself. Like, Jesus wasn't wearing a shirt because it wasn't available. Like, that was like the real Jesus. So did I cross the line there?
No, I think you made an excellent point about not only Tim Tebow, right? I think everything you said is correct, but to me, you just made a great point about how someone gets truly famous in America. And you can get pretty famous if you're universally loved. You can get pretty famous if you're universally hated. If you can find a way to be both, to be loved and hated to the point where everyone has to have an opinion on you. And I'm looking at our former president as the prime example of this. You will achieve a level of fame and notoriety that is unmatched by anyone else. And I think that's why we continue to talk about Tim Tebow, because like you mentioned, he is a guy who some people are going to ardently hate and some people are going to ardently love. And there aren't many people who are just indifferent toward him, who are just like, whatever. Yeah, he exists and it's fine. Most people have a pretty strong opinion about Tim Tebow. And that's how you get someone whose fame transcends their accomplishments. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about here.
You're 100% right. He is a mythological archetype. And because of that, he is, look, I think obviously Trump embodies that. The Kardashians. I mean, Kim Kardashian found a great way to be on both sides. And you're right. Very few people, when you say, what do you think about the Kardashians? Be like, I don't. Like they're like, they absolutely think she's a role model and something to be revered, or they think she is the marker of the downfall of Western civilization, right? There is almost no middle ground in there. And I think that is, I think it's probably a little much to say the genius of Tim Tebow or Kim, but it is. It's kind of like this is the marketing genius. And in some cases, they were born into that. I mean, I think they have particular qualities that make them who they are. They have an engine that runs the way that it does. And some of it's just, you win the lottery, and you happen to be the figure one thing I don't understand when people are like, well, Tim Tebow sucks. He's a terrible athlete. I'm like, he's not he may have been one of the 5 greatest college quarterbacks of all time. And the NFL game is different than the college game. If we learn one thing from this is do not pretend that a great college athlete is going to automatically be a great professional athlete, because they are absolutely different games. And it's those. The other thing you can say is these scouts are usually right. These people that are like, no, he's not a first round draft pick. They usually know something that we don't, generally speaking.
This conversation has got me thinking about the other most famous athletes in our society right now, right? LeBron, Tom Brady, players who, much like Tim Tebow, are either very much loved and ardently defended or very much hated for whatever reason someone may decide to hate them. So this got me thinking, and I'm curious for your opinion on this, Keith Strudler. Would you say Tim Tebow is one of the 10 most famous athletes in society? Not best, not most, valuable, famous. Because he might be on that list in terms of how many people know him.
He certainly was. When he was like the backup quarterback for the New York Jets, he still was. And he even was in some regard when he was starting his baseball career. Outside of Michael Jordan, tell me a single A baseball player that had that kind of
it was getting highlights on SportsCenter. No, you're exactly right.
I think he is. I think he has crossed the Rubicon in some regards that way. Now, I think you might make the argument that he almost pushed himself back into that top 10 list just by going to a couple of weeks of training camp. That's how remarkable his kind of, I don't want to say his Q score, but how remarkable kind of his public persona became. I mean, has there ever been a college football player who has had all of it around him? All of it. I can't. I can think of better ones.
Coming to mind.
No.
Trevor
Lawrence is a great college quarterback, but no one was like Trevor Lawrence, the Messiah. It just didn't happen.
Because Trevor Lawrence isn't famous, right? There's a difference between being good and successful and being famous. And there aren't that many athletes that cross over. And Tim Tebow has. And to me, what's so impressive about Tim Tebow is he has done that while only being a truly good athlete for 3 years at Florida.
Yeah.
Everything he's done since hasn't been very good. He had that one fluke game in the NFL where he won a playoff game, almost in spite of himself. But outside of that, this guy has ridden a decade and a half athletic career on his fame, on his Q rating. And to me, that's impressive because I'm of the opinion that you should get it however you have to get it. And if you can get it by being great, great. And if you can get it by being famous or hated, also great. You go out and get yours. And Tim Tebow is done. Think about how many players that he's worse than, right? Objectively worse than, that he is out-earned by multiples of hundreds.
Look, there are at least 85 on the Jaguars roster right now.
You know what else people have had a strong opinion about as we ramp up into this NFL season? The new taunting penalties.
Oh, yeah.
And this is something that I particularly loathe. I hate when rules take fun and emotion out of sports. I am pro taunting. If anything, I think you should be penalized if you don't taunt your opponent after you make, I don't even care if it's a big play. You know, when you get these like curmudgeons that are like, he had a 12-yard kick return and he's out there dancing on the sideline. Hell yeah. Boogie down, young man. I want you to taunt your opponent every opportunity you get. And now the people that are in charge of the NFL, by and large, let's be honest, rich, out-of-touch white men are ruining fun. They are ruining fun in sports. And I don't like that they're doing that. I want more taunting, not less taunting.
The worst take you had so far in Sportish came at the beginning of the show when you said that if anyone wins an age group, but there's someone older than them, they should not only lose their award, but they should almost be publicly disgraced.
100% correct. I stand by that take. Stand by that take. Tweet at us if you also believe in that take. Because it's a good one. That is a great take. A great take. Yeah. If you disagree with it, you're wrong.
You follow that up and you redeem yourself a little bit by having another one of our very marketable, and if we had even a tiny ounce of entrepreneurship in our collective souls, we would follow up on it to create a move in a box situation where there's a service you call and they basically transport you from A to B. And they just bill you with one. It's a one-stop shop, and they do the mover. They do this probably exists, but it's just like some concierge that we can't afford. Or at least
if this exists, they should do a better job of publicizing it.
So that was your redemption. You've now followed this up by saying the thing that would make the NFL better is if everyone just taunted everyone after the most significant of accomplishments.
Do you disagree with me? Do you like it when you're watching a game and somebody rips off a big play and then they flip the football back to the ref and walk back to the huddle? Like, do you find some redeeming value in that?
I don't find redeeming, but I don't think every 3-yard gain needs to be Billy White Shoes Johnson. I don't need that. I look, if I'm going to answer this seriously, which I rarely do, I'm not a fan of people belittling their opponents to make themselves feel better. And I think there's a line.
I'm absolutely a fan of that, because you know why? Because in sports, what goes around comes around. And every time you belittle someone else, there's going to be a chance for them to belittle you as well.
The theme for you of this show is in sports, if you're not a winner, you're a loser. And you need to be reminded of that.
Because let's not take it so seriously. Technically, these people are playing games. And you know what? As an entertainment product, which all of these sports are, it's way more entertaining if you're going to taunt somebody than if you're just going to walk away.
I am with you on, I actually like the entertainment. So what I think we need, I don't think we need more taunting. I do think we need more entertainment. To me, the high water mark of NFL history was when Joe Horn put the cell phone under the goalpost. So when he scored, he went there and he took the phone call. That to me, because let me tell you what that was. That wasn't just a celebration. That was choreography. That was he was literally sitting in his house being like, all right, how am I going to do this? Right. So, and I mean, he's diagramming this whole thing. I appreciate that. That was entertainment. Now, if he just stands over as an opponent, he's like, I scored, suck it. I don't need that.
Well, it's got to be entertaining, right? Obviously, I don't care if you trash talk your opponents. I'm not going to be able to hear what you're saying. You're just going to be two dudes standing near each other. But yes, to me, a good taunt has to be big, right? You got to play to the back of the house, to the upper deck. If your taunt doesn't play well in the 700 level, you didn't do it right. So I'm not asking for people to just be like verbal meanies to each other. No, I'm asking for that type of taunting where you're going to get on a highlight reel.
Here's our next $1 billion idea, and I'm sure that whatever remnant of the XFL is left, The Rock, we're talking to you right now. Is it The Rock that owns it, right? Or
yes, The Rock bought the XFL. That's correct.
Here, Rock, we're speaking to you, Dwayne Johnson. So there's got to be a way to combine the scoring element of football with style points awarded for celebrations. So in other words, if the team is literally like, look, guys, this is going to be a tight game. The line's 2. It's really anyone's guess. It's a field goal game. So I'm going to need us to get as many dancing points as humanly possible. So basically they're like, just like we talked about a little bit of choreography about Oklahoma and Texas having to do a Broadway tune to each other, which now becomes even more feasible as they move together. SEC in the Red River game gets even more prominence. This should be the idea where there should be guys on the team. They're going to be like, guys, before we score this touchdown, I need to make sure that Smith, Johnson, and Ortiz are on the field because they are our best dancers. They are our best dancers, and we're going to try to get 2 points on the dance. What if they did that? That after a touchdown, you could earn up to 3 extra points with your dance.
No, I like that a lot. I'm 100% on board with that. And because I think we're making so much progress in reshaping football into how we want it to be, let me see if you're picking up what I'm putting down about college football. And this takes place off the field. So athletes have been able to make money off their name, image, and likeness.
You shouldn't say picking up what I'm putting down. You should have said, since we were talking about The Rock, what's his coach?
Smell what The Rock is cooking? That's
you should have said. I want to see if you smell what I'm cooking.
Okay, you're probably right. That would have been better. And if we edited these shows, by the way, we could redo it and insert that. But we literally just turn the mics on and rant for a while.
Yeah, I'm going to edit it now. You know I've got to go see Maleficent tonight because it was canceled last week. You know I have that on my radar now. Don't do this to me again. And the Ben & Jerry's is still free.
I am tired, Keith Strudler, and it's only been a month, and I'm already sick about hearing a news article every time a college athlete signs an endorsement deal. I have now stopped caring. I don't care if you're endorsing Zaxby's. I don't care if you're endorsing the local car dealership and now you're driving around in a Corvette. I don't care if you're a walk-on and you're getting your costs of attendance covered by whatever business happens to be located in the same city as your university. Keith Strudler, I say now that if your name, image, and likeness deal is announced publicly, you should have to give half of that to charity.
But you understand how this works, right? The reason they're getting the money is so they get the publicity. So to do it in the cloud of secrecy does not make a lot of sense.
I'm tired of that's not how it's being reported, by the way. It's not being reported as so-and-so signs with the car dealership and whatever. It's being reported as let's gawk at how much money these people are making and talk about how it's stupid that a 17-year-old is getting paid $1 million to eat Zaxby's. That's how it's being reported. It's not being reported like an endorsement. So-and-so signs with Gatorade. Agent is so-and-so. That's not what's happening, and you know it. And I'm tired of hearing all these deals, and everybody goes, how are they getting so much money? Who cares? Get your hands out of that man's pocket. I'm tired of hearing about it.
By the way, I do love, because a lot of these lack a little sophistication. So I like when these like high school quarterbacks are moving up. They're like, I'm so excited to be going to play football at Iowa State. And I'm also so excited to be able to do this while eating my favorite barbecue sandwich.
That I have no problem with. The athlete can promote their deals as much as they want.
What do you think of Zaxby's? What do you think? I don't think we've ever gotten a read on that.
I think it's honestly, when you're in the South, if given a choice, I would go to Zaxby's over a Chick-fil-A.
Really? I know how you feel about Chick-fil-A.
I would. I think Zaxby's is delightful.
You know what, by the way, I had last night, actually, it was Sloan's birthday. And so we went out for his birthday. And we'd already gone out for like a nice restaurant over the weekend, but we went someplace. How are you on Bear Burger?
I don't know it.
It's quite good. That? Now, of course, they have it. We're eating the vegetarian versions, the Impossibles and the black. Mm-hmm. It's a high end kind of burger joint, where they serve.
It's like a Shake Shack.
No, it's a step up from that.
No, but it's like a fast food burger place, or do you like sit down and order off a menu?
You sit down, you order off a menu.
I don't think there's a step above Shake Shack in that world.
That's a $15 burger, $16 burger. That's a step up.
No, that's about what you're getting at a Shake Shack.
No, your Shake Shack burger's in the
$16 burger. Yes. It's fast casual. You got freaking ripped off.
No, you sit down. There's a waiter that comes out and takes your order.
That's what I said. It's a different class. You sit down, you order off a menu. It's like a restaurant.
Yes. It is a restaurant.
You just said it wasn't that.
No, again, it is. So you're not listening to me.
So it's more in league with like a Red Robin then. It's like a step up from a Red Robin.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I've never been to one.
All right, that's good. I've never been to a Red Robin.
Okay.
They threw me. I don't. Now that they do have Impossible there, I probably would. The thing I like about the Red Robin, of course, is the unlimited fries, which is very appealing.
And listen, I will say this: if there's one thing that's been well documented on the show Sportish, whether you watch or listen, it's my disdain for chain restaurants. I will say that among chain restaurants, Red Robin is very high on my list. It's not pretentious. It produces a type of food that should be produced at that level, right? It knows what it's doing and it does that. It doesn't try to do too much. And as you mentioned, bottomless fries, and those fries, the steak fries, thick cut, very good. I either like my fries very, very thin, a nice shoestring, or I want the thickest. I want you to basically chop a potato in half and serve me that. That's where I stand on fries. And if you were wondering what happens when we start a show, and by start, I mean Keith and I talk before we turn the microphones on, we don't have a whole lot to talk about. Do you want to just roll and see what happens? This is what happens at the 45 minute mark.
I didn't say that was a good idea. I didn't say that was a good idea. You said, let's just roll, because your head's in another place right now. You're thinking about moving. Your head's not fully in the game. Was there not another topic we wanted to get to in our last 2 minutes?
There was, and we can do it in the last 2 minutes. You ready?
Perfect.
How about Lane Kiffin, upset of the football offseason, has become America's new health czar. Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss has his team 100% vaccinated and has come out on the forefront as a guy who's all about health and wellness. He's lost 30 pounds all on his own. Just was like, I got to get fit. I saw a picture.
No, he looked at a picture of himself and he's like, I look fat.
Yeah. So how about, I did not see this coming, Keith Strudler, Lane Kiffin, the guy who was previously most famous for being fired on a tarmac, and prior to that was most famous because he probably had an illicit relationship with a student at one of the colleges that he worked for, allegedly, is now like this bastion of health. He got his team 100% vaccinated in Mississippi.
I'll tell you what. There will be no greater upset in college football this year than Ole Miss pointing their finger at Dartmouth or something like that, being like, why can't you be like us? I mean, God bless Lane Kiffin. But I'm one of those guys that thinks football is better with Lane Kiffin in it than not in it. That's always been in it. And by the way, if you're going to have him in it, have him in the SEC where he can make the most noise. My theory on the SEC is, I hope that when Texas and Oklahoma, they make sure they've got the craziest head coaches when they enter that league. Because I like the SEC to be wide. I want a situation when Dan Mullen, who's basically screaming about, we don't care about COVID in the stadium, or let's keep fighting it at the end of halftime. I want him to not even shake the radar. I want him to be right in the middle. Like, that's what I want out of the SEC. God bless Lane Kiffin. We're cheering for you.
And God bless you for sticking with us through 47 minutes of whatever the heck this episode of Sports. But look, this is what you get in the middle of August. If you expected something different, you're watching or listening to the wrong program. So join us again next week for maybe more of the same, or maybe something better. Who knows? He's Keith. I'm Jeff. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.